Hi and welcome to Understanding the Minor Arcana. Last video I talked about rods and pentacles. Today we're going to talk about swords and cups. So starting with swords, swords relate to the element of air and air relates to the mind. So the Ace of Swords, Ace being number one is ruled by the Sun. And this card is a great card. It represents sudden news, sudden information coming out that's going to be really valuable to you. If you're waiting on news, this is going to bring news about, and generally it's a yes. Generally it relates to good news, and it can be quite a breakthrough. So with this card, it's lifting us up. It's lifting us up from the earthly realm into a much higher understanding, and often allows us better opportunities and better situations. I also relate it to air travel, and if there's the Eight of Rods with it, which is fast movement, well then definitely it's looking like a holiday or some air travel, which could even relate to work. Next we have number two. Number two is ruled by the moon, and as you can see there, this is the Morgan Greer pack, by the way, if you're not familiar with it. Number two, with the moon sitting up there, and as you can see, she is bound here. She can't see her environment. She's protecting her heart. So she's really in a place of trust, in a place of having to trust her intuition, her senses, and she's very it can be quite a scary card in that sense that we are not seeing what's going on around us, but it does encourage us to tune in and to connect to our inner knowing and our inner senses. So I feel like this is a very protective card. She is protecting herself, and also feel that even though she can't see, she's actually very aware of what's going on because she's tuning in. So with those swords there, I still wouldn't want to get too close, because I feel she would sense you really close to your energy. So if this card is coming up, it's telling you about protection, it's telling you about trusting your intuition, trusting your higher self, and just some time out to connect into that. You may not be able to see what direction to go in at the time, but again, this is where we are put in a place of having to just trust our inner understanding, our inner knowing. Number three is a Jupiterian card, and of course this doesn't look like a very happy card at all. The heart's been pierced by three swords here. And with Jupiter, to me it's more like the negative of Jupiter, where things can be truly exaggerated. And being a mind card, this is all about thoughts, words that have been hurtful, people that have said harsh things to us. It's also about situations that have been disappointing because we've, whether it's relative to information we find out, or whether it's just relative to what is said to us, but it's often relates to where we thought we could, move in a certain direction, and then we find out we can't. So being the mind, the hurt can be not quite as real as we think it is. Like with the Jupiter, we could be exaggerating how bad it is, because the mind and the ego wants to do that. So when I see it, I don't see it as a pain card as such. I see it as a feeling emotional pain, and where our mind convinces us that someone has been hurtful. It doesn't mean that they haven't been hurtful. If it's sitting in a place of work, then we could have someone that is really quite directly trying to disempower us, or we could be in a relationship where we're trying to be disempowered, or we could just find out that things aren't really going in the direction we were wanting. But generally with Jupiter, being the number three, it's saying that your productive growth isn't going to come from this place. So this is when we need to check in with the mind and with the ego and see how much importance we're giving to the situation. Of course, the cards around it, as always, will indicate where that situation has been a little bit hurtful. Next, we have the Four. Now, this is Uranus, and it's a really strong Uranus card in the sense that this is a expect the unexpected card. So we have the swords coming down from above, and we have the face here as being covered by the shield. And so, you know, you can't see these swords coming, and it's so it's something we're not expecting. This card's come up when in situations where people, where there could be change coming in, people just absolutely can't see it coming. So it's expect the unexpected with this card. It's also about creating new foundations. So it does create security, but it means that there's going to be a time of restlessness or a time of excitement as change can come in very, very quickly. So number 5. 5 is a Mercurial card. So that is the card of the mind, and we've got a double dose with it here with the swords. Now in this card, this man here, he's won his battle. He's been fighting a battle, but he's not feeling really happy about it. He's done what he's had to do to survive, or what he's only known to do. And this card can relate to where we're feeling responsible for others in the way of not for their emotions, but more so for actions, or more so for things that have happened. So with this card, you know, there's not a real sense of satisfaction in this. It's more a sense of having to do what you have to do. And again, the mind can take us to places where you know, we don't need to be. We could be dwelling on the past. We could be looking at past actions where we may have had to do something that you know, has a backlash. But at the same time, probably in the same situation, you know, if we go back, we probably would repeat the same thing because we probably didn't really have a choice. So with this card, you know, it is about, you know, understanding the mind, understanding that we don't need to feel this way, and that we are, you know, we've done the best that we can with what we knew at the time, or with the tools that we had at the time, so to speak. So number 6, 6 is ruled by Venus. Now this is a much nicer sword card. It's relating to moving away to a more peaceful situation, or moving out of troubled waters. Now, it doesn't always mean that you're moving away from a situation that's been really hard, but it can be a situation that has been not productive or not really working out. I've often seen this card with people that are either relocating or making a change, but again, the cards around it will indicate what they're moving away from and what's going to be so much easier for them in the future. So it's a nice card. It's giving the promise of peace and you know, yeah, a much more sense of just inner peace coming, because things are going to flow so much better in the future in this new situation. And of course more productivity with Venus. So number 7, and 7 is Neptune, and Neptune can be quite an elusive card. You know, it's connected to the unknown, to the spiritual realms, but is also where we can feel uncertain. So this card sort of represents that we're wanting to go in a different direction, but we're also still keeping a bit of an investment or a bit of a situation behind us. So it can indicate in situations, say, where we're leaving a work position, but we're required to still stay there, or we're leaving a work position to go into business, but we're still going to keep our job for a bit for the security until we feel confident in it. Or it could represent a situation where we're spending you know, some time in one environment and then having to go back on the weekends to spend time somewhere else. And as you can see, like literally here, he's got five swords there, and the 2 are sitting in the background, and sometimes it could be the 5 days of the week and what we're doing in the weekends. So I mean, of course, it's going to be what comes, what the cards are surrounding it and what comes to mind for you. But in these situations, it's often it's not really a juggling thing. It's more like we have to go and investigate, we have to go and check out the circumstances, but we're still keeping you know, keeping our finger in this pie over here for a bit. Or circumstances mean that we have to be, you know, in 2 places at once, and we can divide our week up that way. So next is number 8, and number 8 is ruled by Saturn, and this is a really strong Saturn card. As you can see, it's the aspect of Saturn that is very limiting. It's where we feel we can't move forward, where we feel restricted. You know, that word can't is really indicative of this card. And fair enough, when you've when you're tied up like that and you really can't see ahead. So it's sort of where we can feel trapped, or where we can feel we can't change our circumstances or get out of our situations. Now, of course, that's not always true. Well, it's never true. We can always make plans to move forward or to move out of our situations. But Saturn is all about planning. It's all about time. It's about taking our time with that, not to be in too much of a rush to make the changes, making the most of your situation while you're in this circumstance, because with Saturn, there's a karmic aspect of there's something possibly to learn in that. So even though we can feel really entrapped, if this is not a permanent situation, swords are quite fast moving, and each day can bring a new thing. So it's sort of hang in there with this. If you're seeing this card, or if it's sitting in the outcome, it's saying, this is going to be a bit of a slog, but just if something's being held up, just be patient, just put it aside, and make and sort of make plans for the future on how you can start to move forward. Now, as we move into number 9, 9 is a Mars card, and it's a similar card to the number 8, except it's sort of showing that we're coming near the end of the cycle. We are able to, release ourselves from the restrictions. It's a very frustrating card, this card. It's, with that 9, 9 doesn't like to be its Mars, it doesn't like to be held back, or, Mars Saturn represents that sense of frustration. And, the hands are tied here, the wrists are tied, but the rope's a bit loose, and it's not going to be long before that's coming undone, and there'll be a lot more free movement again. So it's like the 8, where you've got the restrictions, but it is sort of saying that you're a lot closer to moving away from frustrating circumstances. Then we come to the completion card, number 10. So number 10 is a 1, bringing in the new cycle, and a 0, representing the cycle. And it's not a pleasant card, as you can see. Someone once termed it the pregnancy card. Sorry, not the pregnancy card, the period card. It's when you're having that really bad day, when you just want to stay in bed, when you really don't want to do much, but it's really saying this is the end of the cycle, things have come to an end, and it's time to let go. It's time to release the old and prepare for the new. So 10 of Swords is really, had enough. And where it comes up, it's saying this is the end of it. You're at your tether, that this will most likely have the death card following, which is the end. Otherwise, it is representing the end, but it is when we feel we can't go on and keep going on in this direction. Next, we have the Page. Now, pages, they can represent young people. They can also just represent information or fast-moving action. In this particular pack, I tend to not see this so much as a young person. I tend to see it as a type of quality related to the combinations of Mercury, Pluto. If you don't understand what that means, that is where we can be sometimes manipulated, or when we can have very sort of controlling or persuasive type personalities that are very strong in their opinions and views. So it's not a terribly nice card for me, as I've used in the spreads when it's relating to people or situations, because it means that they are trying to either manipulate or control, because their desire or their power or their force is so strong, and that's embedded in their nature. If it's coming up in your own situation or in your outcome, it can mean that you're actually taking control of your circumstances yourself. You may even be telling some people what you think of them. Like this card doesn't hold back, but it's certainly not diplomatic in any way, and it can be quite cutting and cold and cruel, and in real negative situations, it can even represent narcissistic qualities. If you have the devil there, or other sort of, or the moon, it would mean that they're in this pattern, unconscious pattern of saying quite nasty things when they become reactive. So again, depending on the cards around it, it can relate to those things. So it's really about the immature use of words, I guess. Next card, we have the Knight of Swords. Now again, this can be a young person, and the knights often can relate to young men or women in their sort of teenage years or early 20s. this card being swords, and it's quite fast moving. I feel like this can be about fast information coming through. Now, not quite in the same way as the Ace of Swords, which is great news, and it's it's definitely it's a yes card if you're looking for an answer. This is more just information that's coming through, and it's coming through quickly. It's actions that need to be taken through information that's just been sought out. It can, of course, relate to the air signs as well. So here we have the Queen of Swords, and the nature of the King and the Queen, of course, is they're ruled by air. They're very good with communication. They're very good with speaking their truth, letting you know how they feel. They're great, very social, especially the Queen. She's very social. King isn't necessarily so socially active, but she's the sort of person that would like to. She'd be very good in sales, very good in anywhere where she can organise her own work. She's independent. She's a lot of fun. She can be quite vivacious at times, and she's very intelligent. She can nut things out and make things happen quite quickly. So if you're needing someone, say you're needing a lawyer, and you got this card, she's the one you want. She's quick on the uptake. She's very smart, and she's very clear about who she is and where she's going. Sometimes she might lack diplomacy, but we don't look to her for emotional support as much as you look to the Queen of Cups. She's just going to be the person that will just say what she thinks, and she may even tell you off if she thinks that you're feeling sorry for yourself. So I do like this card. She's pretty straight up, and she represents, of course, the air signs: Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. And of course, she's got a very beautiful face, like the Librian qualities, and of course, Geminis and Aquarians can also be very beautiful. But Libra is the sign of beauty. And lastly, for swords, we have the King. Now, he's a very powerful man, and he can come up with, as a leader. He prefers a leadership role. He utilises his mind. He's always thinking. He can so often be preoccupied with thoughts. He's the sort of person that, you could be in communication with, and you think he's not listening, but he actually is listening, because he's quite capable of digesting what you're saying and doing what he's doing at the same time. He will take things on board, but he will be quick to respond or to react with what he thinks and feels, even though he may digest it all a bit later. So he often comes up relative to your boss, to people in authority, to people that need to make really, really strong decisions and powerful decisions. And he's also, I see him as almost like in engineering, or quite male. The leaders are quite male influenced careers. So next we have the cups, and the cups represent water, and water is all about the emotions and how we feel. So firstly, we come into and how we connect actually through the emotions. So firstly, we come to the Ace of Cups. Now again, the Ace is number 1 and represents new beginnings, and with the Ace of Cups there is new emotional expansion, new emotional growth, and this is when we can feel excited about new love. It can represent new love if we're looking at a situation of relationship coming in. It will indicate a new person coming in, or a new level of love. So if you're already in a relationship, it could be that you're just bringing out this new level of love, or rekindling the emotional expression of your love connection. This can also represent birth, of course, and pregnancy if we're looking for, if we're wanting to expand on the family. The Empress, of course, is the pregnant card. So, of course, with the Empress, it's absolutely 100% yes, there's pregnancy. This is more around the birth side of the pregnancy, and it's like that feeling when a child is born and holding it in your arms for the very first time. It's a very emotional experience. It's one that it's imprinted in us, one that we never forget, and that's because this is all ruled by the emotions. So it's a beautiful, uplifting card. It's saying that your heart chakra is going to be expanding with a lot of joy and happiness. in the future or wherever it's relating to. So the Two of Cups. Now the Two of Cups, again ruled by the moon, so this is about emotional connection and emotional expression. So I strongly use this with relationships, especially with my pack, with this pack here, because they are very entwined and looking into each other's eyes. They're feeling quite a deep connection. So it's about friendship, it's about connection. It's not just about love, but it's about where we emotionally connect, where we empathize, where we understand, where we have that connection at a soul level. And this is often felt in our relationships, in our friendships, in our families. So, where it's relative to communication, again, the cards on the either side could be talking about, or should be describing what you're communicating about. But it's a beautiful, interactive card, and it's where we are sharing with others at a deep level, or even at a emotionally stimulated level. So it doesn't always have to be about expressing our love. It's more about expressing ourselves and who we truly are. The cups represent the soul. They represent our true sense, our true inner being. Next we have the Three, again another Jupiter card, and these girls getting together, they're having fun. In the Rider-Waite pack, they're sort of celebrating, they're dancing around. In this pack here, they're just looking, they're all looking quite different here, but they've all got a very, very common connection. Now, I use this as a sisterhood card, and that's worked very well for me. And when I say sisterhood, again, where we feel a strong connection. It's also, I've used it for brothers, because we don't have the same for like a brotherhood card, so it can relate to siblings, to brother, sister, where we have that special deep bond. Also, sometimes it's been quite literal with working together, possibly with 2 or 3 women, depending on what you're getting around the numbers. Next we have the 4, and 4 again is Uranus. And Uranus is, sudden, it's unexpected, it brings things in quickly. And so here we have someone sitting quietly with their 3 cups, pondering, and there's an offer coming out here of the clouds, again the air, and it's holding a cup. So it's an offer that we can't quite see, it's an offer that we weren't necessarily expecting. There's another card which I'm going to show you which relates to an offer as well, but with this card it's more like an offer, but we're not feeling quite, it's sort of coming in so quickly that we're not quite ready to actually, we've got to think about it for a while. It's sudden offer or sudden opportunity, so it is going to take a bit of time to digest, or we may have to wait for it for a bit because we're still preoccupied with these 3 cups here. So an offer out of the blue. Number 5, 5s in the tarot aren't particularly lovely looking cards. They can look a little bit troublesome, and they do describe the mind and the places it wants to take us. So here the cups are spilled, and he's not looking, he or she, not looking at the cups behind, which are relating to, where the cups are already full. So this is a bit of dwelling here. It's a bit of an emotional situation where we just feel, what can we do? The situation is really being quite hard, but we're not seeing the value in the situation or where the situation is going to lead. So it can relate to circumstances, in relationship or family, where we feel that we have disappointed others, or where we feel that they've disappointed us, or because this is all about the emotions again. This isn't necessarily a physical thing, it's more of an emotional thing. It can also be where we feel responsible for family, or we feel responsible for our children, where we may not, for the paths they've chosen or so forth. It may have nothing to do with us, because again, we're not seeing the bigger picture, or we're not seeing what's behind us, or why this needed to happen. So it's a dwelling card. It's saying don't dwell on what has been lost, because all is not really lost. It's really just our perspective on it. It's not so easy to tell the emotions that, of course. Now this is a lovely card. 6 is ruled by Venus, and this Cups is ruled by, again, water and the emotions. And I see this as a very special soul connection card. So this card can come up relative to soulmate. It also is, soul family, and it represents family and most packs. But with this, I feel like there's soul union, and it's not just family, it's where we feel a very deep and special bond with another. So, like I said, this is a card. If you're looking for a card for soulmates, this is the one that I use. And being the 6 and the Cups, it's perfect for that, because you want to be able to have that deep emotional connection where you fully understand each other, and then from that point, then you can start to learn who each other is. Next we have number 7, and number 7 again is Neptune, and this is very Neptunian in the sense that there's all these different there's all these different things going on here. There's things, there's a mask, there's a dragon, there's, so it's like what is hidden, what we can't see. So this card to me represents options and choices, and Neptune opens us up to what is possible. And with this, anything is possible. But with it, it's quite an active time. It's also, I relate this card to like a Gemini energy, where we're multitasking. We've got so much on our plate, or we can't quite focus on the one thing, because there's 7 different things going on here, or too many choices to make. So even though it doesn't have any of that Mercurial influence, I sort of do see it as it reminds me of the mind and all the different channels that can come in, all the different thoughts that we can have, or where we can scatter our energies too far. So, it can relate to choices and options. It's a very creative card. So depending on other cards around it, it can relate to writers, it can relate to people with great imaginations, and of course that's all the Neptune quality of the unseen, or bringing things to life, or uncovering, like with the mask, and taking the mask off and uncovering what's behind. So it's an interesting card. It's a stimulating card. I relate it to a need for magnesium to calm down the nervous system, because again, there could be just too much going on there. Next we have number 8. Number 8 is Saturn, and this card is, astrologically, I sort of relate it to Moon Pluto, which is about the ability to really focus in into a certain objective, or certain piece of information, and research work. But here he's turning his back on the emotions, and he's running away from any sense of fulfillment from a emotional relationship perspective, but possibly spending a lot of time focusing on other things, as in putting his focus into either career or anything but the emotions. So this card, I've related it to, and of course Moon Pluto, that aspect also can relate to addictions, it can relate to workaholics, it can relate to alcoholism. These cards would need to be supported by bad patterns of behaviour, which would be the moon. But this card is quite often, I've seen this relative to a fear of commitment. Now, a lot of people don't understand they have a fear of commitment, because a lot of that is in their deep subconscious, and they can't quite remember the messages, or the imprints that they had at a young age on what they decided about relationships, marriage and commitment, through what they possibly saw. So because it's a deep subconscious thing, like I said, it may not be an awareness, but this is almost running away from the emotional commitments, and really putting our focus into other areas. So I mean, it can be a very positive card if you're you need that focus, and you're really putting it into a certain desired goal or objective. But if you're looking for a relationship, and this card is coming up, sort of saying that you're really needing to address what you're attracting, or why you're attracting people that really you want, it's impossible to commit with. So next we have the 9, And the Nine of Cups is again Mars energy, and this is all about sharing emotional fun with others, activities with others. I see the 10, even though there's this jolly man here, he's looking quite exuberant. It's almost a Jupiterian card where it's, can relate to excesses. There's 9 cups there. There's a lot to drink. But, I sort of see those cups as people and parties and people getting together and enjoyment and socialising. And also it can relate to your social connections, your social environment. So if there's other cards around it, excuse me, it can relate to, if there's somebody coming in, someone new coming in, are you going to meet them through a social event, or are you going to meet them through your social connections? So I see it as a very social card and a joyous card. And then we come into the completion again at the emotional level, and this is celebration. This is a lovely card, the 10. 10 is about, come to completion, but again, we're coming into the new cycle for new beginnings. So this is celebration. But this card often connects to engagement, sometimes with weddings, if we have the Sun card present with it. But it is about commitment, I feel, when we're saying, as the arms are entwined there, and it's almost like at a wedding where you're declaring your vows together. So this union or this partnership, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be an engagement or a wedding. It could be partnering up for work if there's work cards around it. But it's saying that the union is going to be, you're going to be connected at an emotional level. You're going to have a good understanding, and you've got a soul purpose together. Next, we come into the pages. Now, this card, like I said, you decide what you want to use for young people. I use this one relative to babies. The Page of Pentacles, I sort of bring, I relate that more to once you've come into school age. And then the Knight of Pentacles are sort of more like your teenage years. But again, it's going to depend on your own cards and how they look to you. This card is a beautiful Piscean card here. As you can see the fish here. I feel it's connecting to the soul. And also I see it sometimes, it can even be the unborn child, the soul. And someone's asking about children, and of course the other cards, the Empress or the Ace of Cups are there. It's definitely talking about a baby. But otherwise, this card is actually relating to this yearning in your deep soul, what's in your deep soul, and it's what's deeply in your soul there, and relates to talents, skills and abilities. But these talents are very young, they haven't been utilized yet. Sort of see it as very creative energy. Sometimes it relates to the creative skills, but either way it's saying that this is going to be a time or an opportunity to utilize more skills and talents. Beautiful card there, very soft. And here we have the Knight of Cups, and with this Knight, sometimes he can relate to the softer and more watery signs. And if I haven't mentioned it already, we have Cancer, Scorpio and Pisces are the water signs, so it can relate to that of a younger nature. Quite often I also use this one as an offer as well, where unlike the offer that was coming out of the clouds, that was sort of unexpected and we needed time to think about, this one is sort of coming directly, more directly from a person or a connection that I feel is coming from the heart. And it could be an offer of love, or it could be an offer of work change, an offer of anything that I feel is coming from a very genuine place. And next we have the Queen, and so she is the star signs just mentioned, or she can relate to someone of a very strong watery quality. Now, when I'm mentioning the star signs, because we have our whole chart, and we've got to weight up our chart, because we may be a water sign, excuse me, but we could have 70-80% fire or air, which would make us more like the fire energy. And so if that was the case, we had more like over 50% fire going on in our chart, and that would include the ascendant or the moon sign being, or even the inner planets like Mercury and Mars being of a different element. You know, it sort of needs to be weighted up because, you know, quite often these cards can pick up on the ascendant of someone, which is how they present themselves in the environment, and not so much the sun sign, which is their nature. So this person, you know, has the nature of being very gentle, very soft. She's quite a relaxed energy. She's calming to be around when there's stressful situations. She's there in a very empathetic way. She's the one you want to talk to when you've got problems. And she's, you know, got a very, very big heart. So she's soft in nature. She can take offence easily. She can be hypersensitive. You know, she can be difficult at times because if she's emotionally complicated. But again, it's going to depend on the cards around her, on her use of her emotional connection. And lastly, we have the King of Cups. And the King of Cups is, you know, he's a soft energy for a man. He's a sensitive type. He likes to have his, you know, this represents having your leisure, spending time by the water. And like I said, you know, it represents those signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. But it could be someone who's a fire sign, but they have predominantly a lot of water and they do spend a lot of time by the sea or live by the sea. He's got a bit of a dreamy nature. The cup signs are very good, you know, very good family members or very good parents in the sense that they're emotionally always available. And so, you know, this may not always, you know, be true in some situations. You know, you could have a Cancer that's completely shut down to his emotions, or a Scorpio that is in complete, you know, denial of his responsibilities. You know, and these aren't always typical qualities, but depending on the cards around, which will indicate, you know, whether he is actually able to express himself emotionally. But even if this man, you know, it's not easy being a man and expressing your emotions, but even if he's not able to be, you know, fully express what he's feeling, he will always be helpful. He will always be lending a hand or doing something, you know, at a level that is going to really help you to feel better. So, you know, these are lovely cards, and I describe these cards as nice people, you know, helpful, easygoing nature, and you know, really fun to be around. And of course, they've got their drink in their hand there, so they do know how to relax and enjoy themselves. So that's the end of this video, and I hope you found that helpful, and we will see you again. Bye.